Hey guys, we're hanging out at the Ballard Locks. It's a beautiful morning and I'm super excited to check out the new Rad Power Bikes RadCity Step-Thru. So they had like high step RadCities before, okay? And they have like a 16-inch, 19-inch, and that was great. But you know, as someone with a sensitive knee, and I know a lot of people have hip issues and stuff, being able to step over just like that without really swinging your foot over, especially if you have gear on the rack or something, this is a huge deal. And I love the way it's totally custom. Like, check out where the battery is. It's right there in the center of the bike versus hanging off on the rear, you know, compromising the storage weight of your rack and creating like this frame flex situation. They've really overbuilt this frame. Check out this huge gusset in the front. See, so it connects that combined top tube, down tube, and it reinforces the fork and the front wheel, and it creates a lot of stability. And then down here, by putting this little crossbar, they're connecting these two, I guess this is the seat tube and then the main tube, and just reducing a lot of the flex that I've experienced on other step-through bikes that try to achieve a similar like ergonomic and standover situation. But I feel like they've done a great job. This is custom. I haven't seen this type of frame anywhere else, and I love that, you know, they've carried through this sort of like pearl white into the rack, so it's built right onto the bike and it's extended pretty far towards the back, which means the seat can actually go very low. So if you're someone who wants to like Flintstone, which is where you sit on the seat and you can still put your feet down, you can do that on this bike, and it's pretty fantastic. Here, I'm gonna just try to show you. So I'm releasing that. Look at that. Look at how low that is. I mean, that's ridiculous. So having such a low standover height and a saddle height, that really enables you to ride this however you want and feel comfortable. And then that's extended up here too. You can see the adjustable angle stem from Zoom. A lot of times I'm kind of like, well, you know, there's only one bolt, but I talked to the folks at the company, the engineer, and he was like, no, we're using a different material, and this isn't a problem that they've had, but I recommend just keep an eye on that. Make sure it's tight and everything. Look, we've got a 10mm spacer, 20mm spacer, swept-back handlebars, ergonomic grips. These are not locking, but they're pretty comfortable. They seem to work all right, and I like that they match the saddle. So this bike has a nice look, but it's also very functional and comfortable, and you can kind of dial it in to be a little bit further reach if you're someone who's taller, or bring it upright. This is how I like to ride because, you know, my head's able to look around and say hey to my friends and spot traffic and stuff. This only comes in one size. It's kind of like a 15-inch. I do have the specs back at the website compared to the two different frame sizes on the high step RadCities. But yeah, you can really just dial it in. The whole seat thing, I thought that was pretty fantastic. And there's still plenty of room back here. This rack has a YEP window built into it. So that's this like rectangle right here. They have those child seats that you can put right on the back of the bike, and it doesn't need any adapters or anything. So I love that. That saves you weight and complexity. There's all these threaded eyelets and stuff. I'm gonna walk through some of the optional accessories a little bit later, but I just wanted to point that out. Of course, we also have fenders. These are plastic. They've got the rubber mud flaps on the bottom, so if you're pedaling along and you kind of turn and kick that, it's not gonna break the fender. These are very durable. They're not as loud as aluminum alloy fenders, and they're not gonna rust like steel fenders. So, you know, it seems like a pretty good setup. I've got a suspension fork, which of course I appreciate. It complements the tires. These are a little bit wider. You notice they've got that checkered pattern. That gives you a bit more cushion and vibration dampening as you're riding across maybe some grass or a bumpier kind of torn up street or sidewalks. These are Kendas. They're 26 by 2.3 inches, and they've got a pretty wide PSI range. So I think it's like 30 to 80. So depending on your weight, whether you want to be efficient or more comfortable, you can dial it in. I'm a relatively lightweight rider at like 135 pounds, so I tend to like lower my pressure just a little bit to make it more comfortable. 12 gauge spokes, so that's a little bit sturdier, a little bit thicker than 14 or even 13 that you see on a lot of other bikes. So I appreciate that. And then coming up here, big, solid, stiff, grippy Welgo pedals. We've got those pins built in, and then we've also got a chain guide. So that's aluminum alloy plates that are on either side of the chain. So if you're on that bumpy terrain we were talking about, the chain shouldn't drop off, which of course is no fun, you know, and then it kind of get your hands greasy trying to put it back on, and maybe it's cold. It's a little bit cold out this morning, so I'm always like, yes, I love that. The chain guide's a big deal for me, and it protects the bottom from, like, if you come into contact with a curb or if you have a dress or pants. See how that bar right here kind of, it's just going to keep your pants and stuff from getting snagged. My pants aren't getting dirty, they're not getting messed up, all because of that chain guide and the frame design here. In the back, we have a 7-speed setup. This is Shimano Acera derailleur. It's a few steps up. It's not bad, decent component part. And then we've got a derailleur guard here, so it protects it Also, there's like kind of a mega range gear, so they're designing it to be easier to pedal. Like if you run out of batteries or you just want to pedal, you do have that super low gear to help out. But of course, this is an electric bike, and we have a pretty powerful motor. This is from Shengyi. It's like a hybrid motor. 15 pounds on this thing. It's a gearless direct drive motor, which means it's very quiet and it's very smooth. Like the power ramps up and it just feels, compared to some of the other electric bikes I ride, especially like mid drives that tend to be a little bit noisier and they tend to kind of impact your drivetrain as you're shifting gears and stuff. It's all kind of tied together. This motor's separate, so if the chain breaks or you have an issue, the motor, it still works. It should be just fine. And yes, it's a little bit heavier, but it's going to be a little more durable because there aren't gears like pushing on each other. There's also a little bit of cogging, which means magnetic resistance. So if you're riding this thing along and it's not turned on, the kind of the weight, the magnets in there, there's a little bit of repelling happening, and I don't mean that to be a huge con. I just want to be fair. You know, I look at a bunch of different types of motors. A gearless motor is going to be a little bit of cogging. An internally geared one would freewheel efficiently, but then it might create the noise, and it's going to kind of, you know, it'll have this freewheel feature. So those are things I'm kind of, you know, there's always a trade-off. And again, I like that they were able to push the battery weight up front. This frame is a little bit heavier, or this bike, compared to the other two, the high steps, those are about 61 pounds. This is 63.3, and I think part of that is because of all the reinforcements that they've done, right? Because most of the components and stuff are all the same, including that suspension fork. I think it's maybe about 100 millimeters of travel, and it's got compression with lockout adjust, so you can kind of stabilize this thing and reduce that bobbing feeling or dive if you're someone who's a bit heavier and you don't think you need the suspension. They've also got preload adjusts on the side. It's a spring suspension versus air, so you know, some of the cheaper parts here. You know, I'm also, so the other thing that comes to mind is they've got these mechanical 180 millimeter disc brakes front and rear. Okay, and nice levers. Like as far as mechanical brakes go, they've got this rubberized edge, an integrated bell. They even have motor inhibitors. So if you're riding and you pull that, it completely kills power to the rest of the system, and that creates a nice, like, I'm in control sort of feel. The thing is, now we have like hydraulic disc brakes with these like 2-finger levers, and they're adjustable and everything. Those are nicer, but my big point was like price. Okay, so this is $14.99, which is pretty affordable in the world of electric bikes, partially because Rad Power Bikes is able to sell direct, and they've got a special partnership now with Velofix, so you can either buy this and get free shipping and mess with the box and everything yourself, or in a lot of cities, Velofix will kind of receive the bike, build it, tune it up, and bring it for you. And then I think after like 30 days, they have another tune-up, and that's kind of nice because these mechanical brakes and the mechanical shifting, the wires can stretch a little bit, so getting a tune-up is a good idea. I love that they've got a kickstand here with adjustable length, and that it's pretty far out of the way, so the pedal's not going to strike it, especially if you're walking the bike backwards like this. You can see that it kind of starts to rotate. And then it's overbuilt, so in the back, compared to the front, we had a quick release. It's a 9mm skewer. That's a pretty standard bike part. Easy to take that front wheel off if you need to. In the back, it's 12mm, and then it has these like 10mm flat sections. You can kind of see it right there, and that helps it to slide into place in this dropout. It's an aluminum alloy frame, so once the motor's in there, it's kind of pushing against the frame to when the motor, you know, turns on and is powering, it's pushing against the frame. So they've overbuilt it again. They have a stainless steel torque arm there, so that's designed so it won't strip the frame or have any big issues like that. I was really impressed. You know, you look at some of these bikes, especially the RadCity, it kind of looks the same as 2017, but there's just a lot of upgrades. And one of the other big upgrades is that the battery pack here, instead of being 48 volt 11.6 amp hours, now it's 48 volt 14 amp hours, so significantly more capacity. It's going to take you a little bit further, and they're using the Samsung 35E cells, which is like a high quality, longer lasting cell. They have a 1-year comprehensive warranty on all of their bikes, which is, you know, pretty good for a bike that you kind of get online. I see these Rad Power bikes all over the place. They seem to have good durability and stuff, but I don't personally own one. So if you have had experience with this in the past, you want to chime in the comments and help people out, of course I welcome that. Other things I noticed about the new Step-Thru model is that it has this bottle cage bosses attachment. You don't have to use that. You can see how the bottle cage would stick out, and it might make stepping through the frame a little bit more, you know, tricky, but you could put like a folding lock or a mini pump or whatever. And then again, on the back, like all kinds of opportunities with bags and stuff. And then on the other side of the battery pack, we have This is like a controller unit, and so it's designed to send signals and then manage the power flow, and it's separated like this, which makes it a little bit easier for them to service. It makes the bike cheaper, and I think they've done a pretty good job kind of hiding it in here. Like it's nice if everything is just invisible, right? But you got to make compromises. And I asked them about this, and they said it's fully potted and sealed, and it's designed to be really water resistant, which is, you know, key. Here in Seattle, it does get kind of rainy sometimes. So I definitely appreciate that. And they said the headset's sealed, the bottom bracket is sealed. And then check this out, 12 magnet cadence sensor in there. So it used to be like a 6 magnet sensor. So now there's a higher resolution. It's gonna start and stop quicker. And it's back to like those brake motor inhibitors and stuff. There's just a really good like sense of control on these bikes. There are other bikes out there that measure like cadence, torque, speed, everything, you know, super fancy, but they end up being like $4,000 or $5,000 sometimes. So for something like this that's, you know, more affordable, I think they're doing the best they can with parts that are kind of tried and true, proven. And I'm hanging out with some of the founders of Rad Power Bikes over here. This is Ty and Mike. And Mike, I was hoping you could show us the battery. You've got this one kind of all set up to pull off. So check it out, it just slides forward and it comes off 7.7 pounds on this. So you could take it in, maybe you're someone who's an office worker, you could charge it at your desk. Here's the charging port. They've got 3 bolts that connect that mount to the frame, so it feels really solid. And on the other side here, I wanna see the keyhole again, Mike. Yeah, check this out. So there's like 3 settings. There's locked, there's like this unlocked, which allows you to pull it off, and what's the third one?
The third one allows you it turns the whole battery on. So there's an off position and lock to the frame, so you can leave your bike. It's totally disabled from being able to be turned on.
Exactly. I love that. Okay, so in case you didn't get that, like once you've put the bike, the battery on the frame, like it physically locks to it, but then they have this kind of like off but locked mode, and that means that people can't come over and like mess with your display, like if you're up at work or something like that. And I just think that's pretty cool. So thank you for giving me the quick show and tell on that. Okay, so we're back to this bike over here. I wanted to walk you through the display now. If I hold the mode button for a couple seconds, see it blinks to life. We've got 5 ticks on a battery bar indicator, odometer, and if you press mode again, it goes to trip meter. And then down in the middle, we have speed. At the bottom, we have kind of a pedal assist readout here, and if you arrow up, it goes from 1 all the way up to 5 for more power and higher speed, up to about 20 miles per hour. But you can also take it down to 0, and the throttle still works. So that's pretty cool. Whoa, boy, spinning out. It's pretty awesome. So you can kind of use this just as like a little scooter and not worry about pedaling. Like maybe you're trying to balance or you have the dress or something like that. It's nice that they have the throttle that's completely open. So it's a variable speed throttle. It's not like you have to arrow up for more power. This always gives you full power, and you can shut it off. So if you're someone who's worried about bumping that throttle, you can go the other way and be like, nope, no throttle this time. And I just love that. Watts, that's in terms of like how much power the motor's producing. If I hold down, you can try to do this walk mode feature. There we go. So that's neat if you have maybe like the child seat that's put on this or some groceries or something like that. You don't have to push the bike. And I've seen that used when people get flat tires and stuff too. So it's neat that they built that in. If you hold the up arrow, it switches from speed to average speed to max speed. And then the up and mode does the light. So the backlit on the display. And then we've got that integrated Ascendo, pretty bright light, aimable. It is mounted to the suspension fork bridge, so you know, as that goes up and down, you could get a little bit of bounce. They might have been able to put it up here, but then it gets kind of crowded. So I actually, it's an upgraded light. I feel like it does a pretty good job as is. And then back here, we have a Solo by Spinninga. It's a nice light, but it requires its own batteries, 2 AAA batteries, and it's not integrated into the rest of the system. It's not taking advantage of that new higher capacity battery pack. So you always have to remember to turn it on and off. The silver lining here is that on the second press, it goes to flashing mode. And a lot of e-bike lights don't do that. And I think this is a nice way to be seen and get a little bit of extra attention. So, you know, all in all, pretty good setup. Definitely digging the display. It also has a little USB Type A, kind of a standard USB port at the bottom, and Rad Power Bikes sells this little handlebar phone mount accessory, so you could use that for GPS maybe, or you know, play some music, or you know, add another light. There's a lot that you can do with this. The only thing is, you know, the display is more permanently fixed to the handlebars, so depending on where you're parking, it might get a little rain on it or some sun. So thankfully, again, it is designed to be water resistant. Okay, so back over to these bikes. We have the RadCity, that's the medium-sized frame, and then they have the large-sized frame that's just completely outfitted with cool accessories, including this little front rack thing with a basket attachment. And check it out, they've even extended it so that the light doesn't get blocked. It's not way down here kind of bumping up and down into the basket, it's on the basket. One trade-off is that as you turn and steer, the light doesn't really steer with you, but the flip side is the basket also doesn't steer with you. It's not going to get dumped over or impact your steering. This is the way you want to do like heavy duty baskets, bolted to that head tube right there. Same thing on the Step-Thru. And then here are some of their panniers. So these are really nice. They've got these little hangers, and then there's a little locking clip at the bottom, so they're not going to flop around as you turn or anything. They're, you know, pretty well sealed against water. They even have a seat post suspension option, so if you're someone who's, you know, wanting to create more of a full suspension feel, you can get that seat post suspension as an upgrade. Just keep in mind with the Step-Thru, you know, you see how low the seat is right now. If you added that seat post suspension, it'd only be able to go about that high, because it needs room for the little bumper thing right there in the middle. So it's a neat upgrade, but I think especially on this frame, since it's designed to be so approachable, just think about how some of those accessories might impact you. And again, they have another basket and then the little phone mount and stuff. There's a bunch of different accessories. Okay, and then this is the charger. Before we get out there, worth showing off, because this is just 1.1 pounds. It's a little, you know, it's more basic, but light, 2 amp output. So it might take, you know, 5.5, 6 hours to charge the whole bike. Yeah, you know, I think about like bringing this along with me. Like, should I put it in the bag or whatever if I'm going to work? Do you guys sell extra chargers for people if they want?
Yeah, definitely.
Just like, how much is that?
40 bucks.
40 bucks, something like that. You can check their website, but I think that's kind of cool. You can just toss that in, and maybe you leave one at home and one at work. And then check out, this is where you plug the charger in this little hole right here. And the rubber thing, it actually seats pretty well. A lot of times it's really finicky and difficult to get in, but you know, the Rad Power battery, it's really custom, and they've done a good job thinking about all the details. And see, the plug it'd be plenty clear of this pedal. So if the pedals get bumped or something, they're not gonna snag and bend it and tip the bike over. It's just little attention to detail like that I'm a big fan of. Okay, let's get, oh, hey, you know what? There's one more thing. Check this out. The motor, it has the power cable that's really tucked in. See how it's not like coming out the axle and like potentially getting snagged or bent? That's a huge deal to me. As someone who's, you know, I've got a few bikes and they're parked up against each other or they're at the rack, I really feel like it's just out of the way, a little bit more durable design. I think we've gone just through everything right here. There's a lot to say, so I was trying to be, you know, efficient about it. It might be time to hop on this thing and just take a ride. Check it out. We got a solo wheel coming up. Nice. Seattle is just full of awesome electric things. Let's
great.
do it. We're gonna head for a little ride and get some extra shots. Mike's got the camera so you can get third person.
Yeah, let's go right.
Oh, we got a hill coming up. Doing it. Yeah. This is pretty good. Hey guys, from this angle you should be able to see the gears in the back, the derailleur, maybe hear the motor. Again, it's super quiet. I'm just gonna pedal along, pretty responsive with pedal assist, but it's smooth, so it doesn't feel like it feels like a nice even slope. And again, those 12 magnets make it a bit more responsive for starting and stopping. Okay guys, from here you should be able to see that front suspension fork in action. And again, I just want to compliment, like, the battery, you have to lock it before the bike will start now. So it's a good safety feature so you don't like have the battery fall off the bike before you're ready to go if you get extra excited. Also, they used to have a button on the battery you had to push before you turn the display on, and you don't have to do that anymore. Once the battery is locked to the frame, it's ready to go. I wanted to give you a view of these two handsome fellows riding along. Oh yeah, I love the accessories and the lights. Well, we're finally heading back to the shop. It's been a little bit cold, but a lot of fun. I hope this helps you out. For the full written review, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Of course, I have all the specs and measurements and stuff. Have fun out there, ride safe. We'll see you next time.